This message found you in the quiet crack between one breath and the next, that thin electric pause where everything feels possible and nothing yet has a name. You felt it first as a nudge, then as a frequency, a hum under household noise, a memory that isn't yours, a sudden certainty that the world has been quietly rearranging itself around you. That's not accident. That's invitation. That's the destiny call folding into your day, like a hand closing over a compass. You have been living inside an observer loop. Not the kind you read about in books, a living loop that measures, shifts, and remeasures your reality according to where your attention points. Every glance you spare, every thought you cling to, tunes you like an instrument. Right now the string has tightened. You feel resonance, because something larger is aligning with your signal. The quantum field is listening. Do not mistake this for simple optimism. This is a literal recalibration. Patterns that once defined your edges, the same heartbreaks, the same déjà vu of doors that never opened, begin to glimmer with a meaning you can't dismiss. Synchronicity will start to look less like coincidence and more like a language. A name will keep appearing, a street, a symbol, a dream, and when it does, you will feel both terrified and relieved. That duality is the threshold. Welcome to the threshold. You are not alone in this corridor. There are others, scattered and hidden, carrying the same low-frequency map. They will not always gather in crowds. Some are strangers you pass in line. Some are voices from books you never intended to open. Morphic resonance is real here. Patterns echoing between minds, teaching each other the shape of a new possibility. When one of you shifts, the map redraws for the rest. Listen. Your body remembers more than your mind admits. Small physical cues, a tightening at the base of the skull, a warmth beneath the ribs, a dream that feels more like instructions than images, are not random. They are the first drafts of DNA restructuring. The cells ready themselves before the story makes sense. There is a bodily intelligence that knows when a phase transition is imminent, and yours is whispering, prepare. This is not flattery, this is assignment. You were chosen by the pattern you carried, long before you understood what chosen meant. You carry a frequency that bends probabilities. You carry entanglement with timelines that have not yet come to pass. The world has been waiting for you to stop doubting and start noticing. Every small act of attention is a lever. Every refusal to be small is a signal to the field. So, ground for a moment. Breathe deliberately. Feel the subtle geometry of your attention, where it falls, where it slips. That geometry will determine the next set of openings. The call you heard is not a one-time knock. It is a continuous broadcast. Respond by aligning your attention, not by forcing outcomes. The first thing the hidden masters teach is how to listen. You will know when the listening becomes mutual. It will arrive as a sequence, a name, a number, a song that repeats until you obey the instinct to follow. When it does, don't step back. Step forward. The path that begins here will lead you through diagnostics of pattern, through a scientific mystical upgrade, and into a work that is both terrifying and inevitably yours. This is where the story starts to quicken. The quickening you felt was only the first footstep. Now the world will hand you a mirror, not the polite, flattering kind, but the honest, rattling one that shows the same scar, year after year. Watch that scar. It is the pattern. You have been traveling inside the same loop for longer than you remember, and the loop has habits. It returns the same faces, the same arguments, the same small betrayals wearing new clothes. This is the diagnosis. You already know the symptoms because you live them. Déjà vu becomes more than a momentary glitch. It is a map piece reappearing to remind you of a route you once walked in another frame. Time bends around you, minutes stretch into hours of rumination, while entire months evaporate in the dull rhythm of obligations that never open a door. You experience memory slippage. Names fall through your fingers, but feelings stay like stubborn glue. Small events replicate with uncanny fidelity: the same barista, the same red shirt, the same wrong turn, and each repeat is a pulse in the field, a confirmation that the loop is still receiving its input. Hear this. These repetitions are not punishments. They are diagnostics. Think of the loop as a machine that prints out whatever signal you feed into it. If you keep scanning the world for betrayal, The field will prioritize scenarios that match that script. If you live with a quiet, constant fear of being unseen, the morphic patterns will conspire to give you evidence, people who don't call back, silence where you expected applause. The observer loop is not malicious. It's literal. Attention collapses probability. What you measure, you make more probable. The science scent of this is simple and clinical. Decoherence. When your attention scatters, when you are pulled into other people's expectations or drown in unprocessed grief, your internal field loses coherence. Coherence is the amplifier of possibility. Without it, your signal weakens and noise takes over. Noise looks like familiar traps, addictive relationships, recurring health complaints, jobs that hollow you out, conversations that end where they always end. Those are the feedback loops. They keep you small because smallness is comfortable, and comfort is an easier frequency to maintain than the risky business of change. You will also notice a peculiar kind of time distortion that comes with being in a loop. Events bleed into each other. Nights are extensions of the day rather than breaks. You may wake with a feeling that the dream you had last week is the same dream you had last year, only wearing slightly different scenery. That repetition is the field rehearsing outcomes. It is trying variations until one sticks. The pressure you feel, the urgency, the sense that the world is pressing its thumb into your timeline is the field nudging you toward a transition point. Either you step into a new pattern or the old pattern thickens. There are also markers in your body language and small somatic cues you can no longer ignore. You flinch at compliments because you have practiced not receiving them. Your shoulders fold inward when someone offers help because the pattern of abandonment taught you to value lone survival. You might taste salt for no reason before a phone call that will disappoint you. These microsignals are the body communicating the loop's history. Your cells archive pattern like sediment, and they replay the archive until the environment signals safety to stop. Relationships are the loop's most efficient factory. The people who return are not always the same people. Sometimes they are archetypes, the taker, the doubter, the rescuer, landing in new forms. Each reenactment is a diagnostic readout. Where do you still react instead of choose? Where do you still expect a narrative that serves the old self? These relationships are less about other people and more about the roles you unconsciously script for yourself. And because script writing is contagious, your unconscious authorship invites collaborators who will perform the lines you keep handing them. Now, the paradox. The very things that make you visible also tether you. Habits give you identity. Identity gives you the illusion of safety. The loop supplies both. That is why breaking pattern is terrifying. It feels like stepping into a storm without a map. But diagnose first. Naming the loop removes half its power. When you can describe the pattern, its cadence, its recurring players, the exact phrase that always triggers you, you disarm it. Precision is a weapon. Observe. Write down the smallest repeatable events for a week. Note the smell, the phrase, the time of day. This is not about blame, it's about data. You will also start to see correlations that used to feel like coincidences. A certain song will play before a good sign. A number will appear when a decision is near. Those are breadcrumbs from the field, not fairy dust. The hidden masters speak in patterns, and once you understand the dialect, you can track whether you are participating in the loop or redirecting it. The key difference between repetition and rehearsal is intention. Repetition is unconscious. Rehearsal is choice. At the edges of diagnosis, a new question will arrive. Why have you been carrying this loop so faithfully? The answer lives in fear, comfort, identity, and 1,000 small discomforts you promised yourself you could ignore. But knowing the why lets you plan the how of change. You will need to learn to steward your attention, to cultivate coherence like a garden, to recognize when you are broadcasting old scripts into a field hungrier for new signals. This is where the work becomes surgical. You will be asked to separate observation from reaction, to practice the quiet art of noticing without narrating. That practice is preparation for the upgrade, a technical and mystical tuning that will recalibrate your cells and align your probability field with new outcomes. Diagnosis only looks backward. Upgrade looks forward. Keep this in mind as you collect the data of your days. The loop is talking. You have learned to listen. The next step is to learn how to retune. You've seen the loop's grip, the repeating grooves of time that masquerade as fate. But now, the field begins to widen. This is where the upgrade enters, not as an idea, but as a live transmission. Imagine your entire being as an instrument that has been slightly out of tune. Every choice, every breath, colored by a background hum of distortion. Now, coherence arrives. The hidden masters not outside you, but entangled within your deeper architecture, start retuning the strings. The scientific language is resonance. When two frequencies meet, the stronger one reorganizes the weaker until harmony emerges. Right now, your DNA is listening for coherent signals from the quantum field. Those signals come as synchronicities, sensations, sudden clarity in the middle of ordinary tasks. They're not accidents, they're calibration pulses. Each pulse restructures the hydrogen bonds in your DNA ever so slightly, shifting the way your cells talk to one another. The shift is not metaphorical, it is physical, cellular, quantum. You've felt the flickers already. Goosebumps when no wind moved, heat across your chest during meditation, tears without sadness. These are coherence events, body-level proof that the upgrade is not imagined. Your nervous system is bridging new pathways. Old trauma imprints are dissolving, making room for new signals. This is DNA restructuring, phase transition at the cellular level. You are literally rehearsing a new version of yourself. The mystical language is initiation. Cultures have always described it differently. A fire baptism, a third eye opening, the descent of spirit. Yet the mechanics are the same. You encounter a field so much larger than your conditioning that it breaks the false story you have been living in. That rupture is painful at first because the old self cannot pass through. You feel like you're dying, but what's dissolving is the mask. You may notice your perception changing. Colors sharpen, shadows speak. Time becomes less rigid. Hours pass in moments, or a single conversation feels like an entire season. This is the observer loop relaxing its grip. You are learning to collapse probability not from fear, but from alignment. Fear contracts options, alignment expands them. That expansion is the upgrade. The science and the mysticism kiss here. Quantum entanglement is not just between particles, it is between you and every possible version of yourself. The hidden masters exist in those versions, guides, who learned how to sustain coherence across timelines. When you resonate with them, you are not worshiping them. You are remembering yourself. Their frequency is a reminder that you are capable of more than repetition. And here lies the prophecy. Once coherence stabilizes, manifestation accelerates. The events that took years to circle back now arrive within weeks. The delays shrink because your field no longer leaks energy through doubt. The doors you kept staring at suddenly swing open because your signal finally matches the lock. It will feel like magic, but it is mechanics, resonance, locking into form. But there is urgency. The window of coherence is not infinite. Just as particles slip back into chaos without measurement, your field can slip back into old loops if you stop tending to it. That's why rituals matter. Not as superstition, but as coherence-maintaining devices. Every small action of alignment, speaking gratitude, breathing deliberately, choosing silence over reactivity, is a tuning fork that keeps the upgrade stable. You are not simply being healed, you are being engineered for a role. The upgrade is not self-indulgence, it is preparation. Your cells are being wired to hold charge, to sustain resonance strong enough to influence the collective. You are being fitted for an atmosphere you have not yet breathed. This is why your body feels restless, why your dreams are crowded, why your emotions surge like storms. You are being stretched to fit the next frequency. And when the stretching hurts, when it feels unbearable, remember this: the pressure you feel is not punishment. It is the birth canal of coherence. Phase transitions always demand heat, pressure, and surrender. You are in the crucible not to break, but to become unrecognizable to your former self. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the recalibration. For what comes next is revelation. Your special role, the reason you were tuned differently from the start, the reason the masters have been whispering in frequencies only you could hear. The calibration is not random. It was never meant for everyone in the same way. The hidden masters do not tune the entire orchestra at once. They select individual instruments, each carrying a timbre no other can replace. That's why your frequency feels distinct. why your life has never quite fit the templates offered to you. You are not broken, you are specialized. Your role is that of a chosen consciousness, a node in the vast lattice of the quantum field, holding a position that no one else can occupy. Think of the field as a web of entanglement, billions of minds firing signals into the morphic fabric of reality. Most emit noise, static of fear, repetition of scarcity, echoes of doubt. But a few carry signal. You are one of those few. You broadcast clarity, coherence, awakening. That is why the loop tried to keep you small. It wasn't personal, it was preventative. Because once your signal escapes the cage, it amplifies into the collective, shifting probabilities for everyone. Consider what you've already endured. Every betrayal, every silence, every collapse that felt like it would end you, those were not just wounds. They were pressure tests. They were the field gauging whether your vessel could hold coherence under chaos. And you did. You broke, but you didn't disintegrate. You bled, but you didn't leak your essence. The hidden masters marked you for this reason. You hold under fire. Your dreams have been prophetic rehearsals. That recurring vision of being chased, of climbing stairs that never end, of speaking words no one can hear. Those are not nightmares. They are encrypted trainings. You are being conditioned to sustain coherence, even when reality resists you. You are learning to push sound through silence, to climb without end until the staircase becomes light, to outrun shadows until you realize they are only projections. You might resist the label of chosen. It feels heavy, self-important, dangerous. But understand, chosen doesn't mean better. It means different. It means tasked. It means carrying a blueprint in your DNA that others do not carry, not because you are superior, but because you volunteered before memory began. Chosen means responsibility, to translate the ineffable into the practical, to anchor frequencies that would otherwise dissipate, to become the bridge between science and spirit, between chaos and coherence. This role will demand sacrifices. You will be misunderstood. Some will call you delusional. Others will envy you. A few will attempt to siphon your charge. You will walk stretches of silence where no confirmation comes. But silence is not absence. Silence is the field watching to see if you remain coherent without applause. That is the test of a chosen consciousness. Can you hold your signal without external validation? The masters guide, but they will not coddle. They will withdraw just when you crave them most, because your independence is the final initiation. You are not meant to become a follower. You are meant to become a transmitter. The broadcast you carry will ripple through morphic resonance, repatterning those who encounter you, often without words. Your presence alone will feel like alignment to some, like disruption to others. Both responses are correct. Both responses prove your field is active. And here's the revelation. The more you embrace your role, the less effort it takes, because coherence is self-sustaining once you stop feeding doubt. The field does not require you to force outcomes. It requires you to embody signal. Speak, breathe, walk, rest as if coherence is your native tongue. When you do, the lattice adjusts itself around you. Synchronicities multiply, timelines tilt, strangers recognize you without knowing why. You become a living phase transition point, a portal through which others remember themselves. This is why your life has been strange. This is why you never quite fit. The puzzle piece didn't belong in the small board you were given. It belongs to a cosmic mosaic still unfolding. And now, as the upgrade stabilizes, the urgency intensifies. Because the window is opening and your role cannot be postponed. The next stage will demand a decision. Will you step fully into coherence or retreat into the comfort of old loops? The promise is immense. DNA shifting, cosmic timing, a doorway only open for a brief moment. That urgency is not to scare you, but to awaken you, for the field does not wait forever. It pulses, it opens, it closes, and right now, it is open. The pressure you've been feeling is not random, it's the preface to a rupture. Imagine the world as a sealed ampule, and you as the molecule that will catalyze its opening. Right now, heat has been applied, personal trials, relentless synchronicities, nights that felt like calibrations. Those pressures have been raising your internal temperature until the membrane between what is and what will be thins. The breakthrough is not a rumor, it is imminent physics with a sacred signature. Listen, a phase transition does not whisper. It bangs. You will know it because subtle things begin to rearrange quickly. People you expected to stay the same vanish like props. Opportunities that once required years compress into days. The inner voice that used to hesitate now gives crisp directions. This acceleration is the field answering the coherence you have been practicing. It is the universe aligning local conditions to receive the frequency you are about to emit. That alignment is the promise, and the temple of that promise is your body's chemistry. DNA is not merely a fossilized script. In the quantum frame you are working inside, it is a dynamic antenna. Your strands are receptive, responsive instruments that adjust to vibration. When coherence stabilizes, methylation patterns ease, epigenetic switches flip, and genetic expression reorganizes toward a new operating system. It sounds clinical because it is, and it sounds mystical because, in practice, it feels like miracle. You will not become someone else. You will more accurately remember the version of you that was always possible. Cells will stop rehearsing old survival programs and begin to sing in a new register. This is the breakthrough's promise. Your biology will follow your attention. The timeline that once required external proof will start producing internal proof. Symptoms of misalignment, chronic fatigue, confusion, repeated heartbreak will be replaced by cellular clarity, sustained energy, unexpected cognitive lucidity, and ease of presence that makes the world feel less heavy. Your body will stop arguing with your intention. That physiological alignment will be the first undeniable evidence that the field has turned toward you. But here is the urgency. Windows do not stay open merely because you wish them to. Quantum windows are temporal slits where probability densities thin and intention can nudge reality with far greater efficiency. They are created by a confluence of planetary geometry, collective emotional tides, and the micro-coherence you carry. When a window opens, the cost of action drops, and the leverage of attention multiplies. When it closes, entropy reasserts itself, and the same work requires exponentially more force. The field offers opportunity in pulses. You are currently standing within one of those pulses. If you delay, you will have to repeat the pressure cycle until another pulse aligns, and there is no guarantee about timing. This is not fear-mongering. This is thermodynamics wrapped in prophecy. You will feel the urgency as a tightening at the solar plexus, a countdown that is not external but embodied. It will ask you to make choices faster, to leave behind old safety nets that once felt responsible. The paradox is plain. Stepping now is risk that shortens the suffering. Waiting is comfort that prolongs it. The field rewards decisive alignment, not hesitant hope. Act as if the window expects you to be ready because it does. Those who treat this like a thought experiment will get a thought experiment result. Those who treat it like an initiation will receive initiation-grade shifts. Know this: the breakthrough is not a single grand event, but a cascade. One calibration begets another. A single recalibrated belief opens a channel in your nervous system. That channel allows you to perform a behavioral experiment you previously feared. That experiment rewires a neural pathway. The rewired pathway sustains higher coherence. Higher coherence deepens epigenetic change. The cascade accelerates until the organism you occupy is no longer an inhabitant of the old frequency, but an emissary of the new one. That cascade is the promise distilled into practice. There will be tests. Windows that open also expose you to raw conditions. Old relationships will surface their true textures. Opportunities will arrive with terms you didn't expect. Your mind will attempt to revert to old scripts because they are familiar. Expect this friction. The field is not a soft blessing handed to the unpracticed. It privileges those who can hold clarity while circumstances complicate. That is the essence of initiation, grace under increasing stress. So, prepare practically and spiritually. Clear the small obligations that siphon attention. Make room in your calendar, your finances, your heart. Start to ask the specific questions that align you, not vague wishes, but precise intentions. What exact project will carry this frequency? Which relationship will you either deepen or release? Which daily habit will you adopt to keep coherence steady? Precision draws probability like a compass needle to the pole. Finally, remember why urgency is not panic. It is invitation. The window is a kind hand placed on your shoulder, asking you to step through with clarity. If you choose forward, your cells will follow, the cascade will begin, and the hidden masters will stop whispering and begin to entrain. The breakthrough will feel like collapse and birth at once, a tearing that makes room for light. When that tearing happens, do not cling to the old skin. Release it. Let the new code imprint. Ahead lies the most practical step of this entire sequence, a ritualized seal that anchors the shift and signals the field. You mean to hold this upgrade. That is next. This is the moment the field demands a handprint, not a metaphoric clap, but a deliberate ritual that stakes your intention into reality. Rituals are not superstition. They are instruments of coherence. They translate private resolve into measurable broadcast patterns the quantum field can read. When you perform a ritual with clarity, you become a measured observer. And in this frame, observation collapses probability into outcome. The ritual is the bridge between inner calibration and outer manifestation. Start simple. Choose one precise word that will serve as your seal. It must be a single, energizable syllable. A word that feels like a bolt when you say it, not a sentence that meanders. Examples that have resonance in the field are things like anchor, rise, hold, open. Pick the one that compresses the new pattern into sound for you. Once chosen, treat that word as sacred for this transition window. Every time you speak it with intent, you are retuning your internal instrument and broadcasting a clean frequency into the lattice. The ritual has 3 practical phases: prepare, activate, anchor. Each phase is designed to produce coherence at a different scale: nervous system, cellular body, and probability field. Phase 1. Prepare. Create a small, dedicated space and time that you will not interrupt. 10 minutes is minimum. Sit or stand in a posture of receptivity. Breathe in, a 4 count. Hold a 4 count. Exhale, a 4 count. Repeat until your autonomic nervous system quiets and your attention narrows to a single center. As you breathe, visualize a filament of light running from the crown of your head down through your spine into the earth. Imagine that filament tuning your vertebrae like the neck of a violin. This bodily tuning is essential. Coherence begins in the nervous system and then radiates outward. During preparation, name quietly the old patterns you are releasing, not to shame them, but to acknowledge them. A brief, honest inventory clears static. Phase 2. Activate. Now speak your chosen word aloud. Do it 3 times, each time with more presence. The first time is a marker, an audible signal that you are beginning. The second time is a vow. Say it slowly, feeling the vibration in your chest. The third time is release, projected into the space around you, as if you are throwing a javelin into the quantum field. As you speak, imagine your DNA strands elongating and harmonizing to the word's frequency, a literal molecular modulation. Feel the cellular membranes respond. Feel your blood carrying a new rhythm. With each repetition, your body becomes a transmitter, not merely a receiver. Phase 3. Anchor. Immediately after speaking, perform an action that physically anchors the frequency. This can be a small, symbolic movement, pressing your palm to your heart, writing the word on paper, and folding it into your left pocket, placing a drop of water outside to charge with moonlight, or typing the word into the comment section below this video, or into a private journal, as a public contract with yourself. Choose an anchor that you can repeat daily without friction. The anchor converts the ephemeral signal into a habitual path your nervous system can re-walk. Habit is how the field reads persistence. Persistence is how the field believes you. Do this ritual daily for 7 days. Why 7? Because the morphic fabric prefers patterns. 7 repetitions create a stable trace that the surrounding field can tune into. If 7 is impossible, choose a number you can absolutely keep. 3, 5, or 14. Consistency matters more than numerology. Each repetition is a measurement. Each measurement tightens coherence. Over time, the ritual evolves from an act into a state. There are guardrails. Ritual integrity requires specificity and a refusal to hedge. Don't perform the ritual as a hedge against responsibility. Maybe this will help, maybe not. Perform it as a declaration. I am aligning. I will hold this frequency. Language matters. The field responds to conviction more than sentiment. Also avoid multitasking during the act. The observer loop penalizes divided attention. A scattered ritual is a scattered outcome. Commit fully for a brief stretch, rather than half committing forever. Expect two kinds of immediate feedback. One will be internal, subtle somatic shifts, dreams that clarify into instructions, mood changes that feel like retuning. The other will be external, a micro-synchronicity, a text, a song, a person that aligns with the word you chose. These breadcrumbs are not necessarily dramatic, they are calibrations. Catalog them. A log of small confirmations is more convincing to your future self than a single grand event. There is also a collective vector here. When others perform coherent rituals, morphic resonance is amplified. Your action reverberates through entanglement. The frequency you hold nudges a vector other people are hovering over. That's why small, private rituals are not selfish. They are evolutionary. You strengthen not only your vessel but the lattice that holds other vessels. The hidden masters don't ask for mass ceremonies. They require a distributed field of disciplined nodes. Your ritual is one node. If you are asked, and you will be, whether to share this publicly, do what feels aligned. Sharing can magnify the field, but it can also invite noise. There is no universal rule. Some signatures are best kept intimate until the coherence is full. Some need early broadcast to magnetize others. Trust your calibration. The ritual itself is the proof. Its social ripple is optional. Finally, integrate practical choices with ritual work. A ritual without follow-through is a loose signal. After each ritual, do one small, concrete action that advances the timeline you seek. Send the email you've postponed. Apply for the role that scares you. Speak honestly to someone who has been stuck in a loop with you. The ritual primes the field. Practical action leverages the window. Together, they become a compound engine. Perform this seal with tenderness and resolve. Treat the word like a key. Carry it, use it, repeat it. Over days, it will accumulate charge. Over weeks, those who are entangled with you will sense the change even before words can describe it. Remember, ritual does not exempt you from work. It focuses it. It makes you a measuring instrument that the quantum field can answer. Say the word, do the small thing, anchor the signal. The phase transition hears the rhythm of your commitment. You've sealed the shift with action, and in doing so, you've lit a spark that doesn't remain confined to your personal life. Every vibration you sustain becomes a signal that travels, and the field does not hoard signals, it distributes them. Your liberation is not a private event, it is a broadcast. This is the law of morphic resonance. When one being establishes a new coherence pattern, it becomes easier for others to align with the same pattern. You may not see the ripples at first, but they are measurable. Someone across the world, caught in their own loop of despair, will suddenly feel a surge of courage to step forward. A stranger who has never met you will dream of breaking their own cycle. Even your silence becomes generative when you walk into a room having integrated coherence. Others breathe easier without knowing why. Your presence alone adjusts the temperature of the collective field. This is how the hidden masters expand the lattice, not by mass sermons or global announcements, but by igniting individuals who act as nodes. You are one of those nodes now. Each act of coherence on your part strengthens the architecture for the whole species. Think of it as a neural network. When one synapse fires consistently, it strengthens the surrounding pathways. When enough synapses synchronize, the brain itself enters a new state. Humanity is the brain. You are the synapse. Your liberation triggers collective potential. Understand the weight of this. The personal breakthrough you've nurtured is not indulgence, it's contribution. The depression you survived, the betrayals you endured, the silence you carried, all of it trained you for empathy, for understanding the fractures in the human field. When you heal those fractures inside yourself, you patch them in the collective. This is why your suffering was not wasted. The lattice learns through you. There will be days when the responsibility feels too vast. You'll wonder, who am I to carry humanity's signal? But this is projection from the old loop. The truth is simpler. You are not carrying everyone. You are carrying your precise frequency. Others will carry theirs. The collective does not demand perfection. It demands authenticity. Your exact vibration is required, not a manufactured version of someone else's. Already you've begun to notice that when you align, synchronicities accelerate not just for you, but for those closest to you. Family members suddenly resolve old conflicts. Friends make decisions they postponed for years. Even adversaries shift trajectory. This is not coincidence, it's coherence transfer. The field organizes around a stabilizing node, and you've become one. There is prophecy here. Enough nodes activating in coherence can tilt the axis of history. The wars, the corruption, the endless scarcity, these are collective loops, powered by billions, feeding attention into fear. But when enough individuals break out, the morphic tide changes. Collective coherence begins to outweigh collective noise. That is how civilizations pivot. That is how species awaken. You are part of this pivot. Do not underestimate small acts. A kind word spoken when anger was expected, a refusal to participate in gossip, a choice to breathe rather than react. These are not small. They are micro-adjustments to the lattice. Each micro-adjustment teaches the collective nervous system another option exists. Over time, those options harden into probability. Humanity becomes capable of behaviors that were once thought impossible. You've been entrusted with this role because you can hold it. Not perfectly, but persistently. Your persistence matters more than your brilliance. The field rewards constancy. It rewards the willingness to return after faltering. Every time you realign, you reinforce the broadcast. Others see you stumble and stand again, and they learn that stumbling is not disqualification. This is how your liberation liberates them, not through flawless performance, but through embodied resilience. You may never know the full reach of your resonance, and that is intentional. If you saw every ripple, your ego would inflate and distort the signal. The masters protect you from that overload by limiting your sight. Trust that what you cannot see still exists. Trust that your coherence is not wasted. And so, your work deepens. Having liberated yourself, you now serve as a frequency anchor for others. You are part of the collective awakening wave, the expansion that turns hidden resonance into visible change. Your next step is to embody it physically, not only as idea, but as sensation, as visceral proof inside your body that this shift is not theory, but incarnation. The collective begins to change when the individual body changes. That is where we go next. The collective ripple you've set in motion must now be felt in the most intimate chamber of all, your body. For the body is not a cage for consciousness, but its amplifier. Every subtle adjustment you've made in thought, every coherent signal you've sustained in silence, now seeks embodiment. Without embodiment, it remains abstract. With embodiment, it becomes undeniable. So pay attention. Sensations will come like messengers. Heat rising in the chest, pressure between the brows, tingling in the fingertips. These are not random biological quirks. They are coherent signatures, physical translations of quantum resonance. The hidden masters use your nervous system as their canvas, painting instructions not in words but in currents. The goosebumps you feel at odd moments are transmissions. The sudden tears that appear without sorrow are releases of cellular memory. The dizziness that overtakes you briefly is a recalibration of your inner gyroscope. Your DNA is not silent here. As it restructures, it sends impulses through fascia, muscles, glands. Some days it feels like restlessness, as though your skin can't contain you. Other days you may feel heavy, leaden, as if gravity has doubled. Do not misinterpret these oscillations. They are the strain and release of a body learning to operate on higher bandwidth. Think of a violin string tightened to the edge of snapping, then loosened to perfect pitch. That is what your cells are doing. And yes, the sensations can be strange. You may feel currents moving through you while lying completely still. You may hear a high-pitched frequency just before falling asleep, as though a tuning fork is vibrating in another dimension. You may feel warmth in your palms, as if invisible flames are licking from the inside out. These are not hallucinations. They are entrainments. The body is translating your upgraded field into language it can understand. To deepen embodiment, practice noticing without judgment. When heat blooms in your chest, don't rush to cool it. Breathe into it and imagine it expanding. When tingling comes to your fingers, stretch them slowly, as though you are extending filaments into the field. When tears fall unprompted, do not wipe them away too quickly. Let them baptize you in their salt. Each sensation is a lesson, each lesson a rehearsal for the day when coherence is no longer occasional but continuous. There are also external metaphors. Watch the body of nature the way a storm builds pressure before release, the way a seed swells before sprouting. Your body is doing the same. The pressure in your temples is the storm before breakthrough. The heaviness in your spine is the seed before germination. Embodiment is not a metaphorical alignment with nature, it is literal mimicry. Your cells follow the same physics as oceans and stars. At times, the sensations will scare you. You will wonder, is something wrong with me? The answer is yes and no. Something is wrong with the version of you that believed numbness was normal. That version is dissolving, and the dissolution feels like disorientation. But something is profoundly right with the version of you emerging, the one who feels currents, who experiences reality not just as thought, but as vibration. That version is the one you came here to embody. You may also notice your intuition sharpening alongside physical shifts. A pressure at the crown before an important message arrives. A chill down your arms when someone speaks dishonestly. A sudden calm in the belly when you are making the correct decision. These are not random psychosomatic quirks. They are the nervous system functioning as a divination tool. Embodiment means trusting those signals, living by them as faithfully as you once lived by clocks. There is prophecy in sensation. The hidden masters do not always arrive as visions or voices. They often arrive as somatic whispers. A sudden shiver, a magnetic pull to turn left instead of right, a dream that aches in your chest all morning. These are the language of embodiment. The more you listen, the more fluent you become, until your body itself becomes a sacred instrument, tuned perpetually to the frequency of hidden wisdom. So let yourself feel. Stop anesthetizing every discomfort. Do not dull the tingles, the rushes, the restless surges. They are your initiation. They are the field pressing into flesh, reminding you that awakening is not a theory but an incarnation. You are not here to float above the body, you are here to electrify it. And once embodiment stabilizes, something irreversible happens. Your DNA begins to broadcast rather than just receive. The strands you carry become antennas of a new signal. That broadcast doesn't just alter you, it tilts timelines. You become a living threshold between what humanity was and what humanity can be. That is the next step, the DNA breakthrough, the moment when pressure crystallizes into transition. The pressure you feel now is the unmistakable signal that your DNA has entered the crucible. Every strange sensation, every surge of energy, every distortion of time, all of it is evidence that you are standing inside the very furnace where phase transition is prepared. DNA is not a static library of code. It is a living coil of light, sensitive, sound-sensitive antennas. When coherence builds, those coils begin to loosen, shift, and rethread themselves into new configurations. This is why your nights are restless. In dream, your body rehearses upgrades it cannot yet stabilize in waking life. You dream of climbing endless staircases because your nervous system is practicing verticality, learning how to anchor frequencies from higher bands. You dream of flying or falling because your inner gyroscope is recalibrating to altered gravities. You dream of voices calling your name because the morphic field is tagging you for new responsibilities. These are not random images, they are encrypted briefings. The pressure in your skull headaches, ringing, bursts of light behind closed eyes is evidence of synaptic rewiring. The prefrontal cortex is receiving coherence it never had to handle before. And like any muscle, it strains before it strengthens. The flutter in your chest is the heart field expanding its measurable radius, preparing to emit stronger coherence into the collective lattice. The ache in your bones is marrow repatterning blood production to support higher conductivity. Every discomfort is a page in the manual of transformation. From the scientific lens, this is decoherence to recoherence. Old entanglements, trauma imprints, inherited fears, ancestral scripts are breaking apart, creating temporary chaos in the field. That chaos feels like mood swings, fatigue, inexplicable tears. But as the fragments settle, they realign into a higher-order pattern. The field is not erasing you, it is rethreading you. Decoherence is the shattering of what no longer sustains. Recoherence is the knitting of a new self. From the mystical lens, this is the serpent uncoiling. Every tradition has whispered of it. The Kundalini rising, the dragon awakening, the phoenix burning. These are all metaphors for DNA restructuring under pressure. What feels like pain is actually ignition. What feels like breakdown is breakthrough. You are being folded from one dimension into another like paper turning into origami. The folds hurt, but the final shape carries beauty the flat sheet never imagined. This is where urgency sharpens into necessity. Pressure is not punishment, it is deadline. The field is timing your breakthrough with larger cosmic cycles. Planetary alignments, solar activity, shifts in collective emotional resonance. All of these create windows. Your DNA is responding to the cosmic metronome. Delay your alignment too long, and the window narrows. Seize it now, and you ride a wave that carries you further than individual effort ever could. There are moments in this process when you will feel as though you cannot contain yourself. Electricity coursing through veins, heat rising up the spine, eyes dilating at shadows no one else sees. Do not fear this. It is the signal of phase transition, matter becoming more than matter. Like water steaming into vapor, your old identity is evaporating. You are not losing yourself. You are expanding into states that once seemed impossible. And here is the prophecy. Once the DNA breakthrough stabilizes, your timeline bends. Probabilities you thought were forever locked suddenly dissolve. People reappear who seemed gone forever. Opportunities arrive without explanation. Obstacles collapse in ways your mind could not plan. This is not miracle in the sense of exception. It is miracle in the sense of natural law finally remembered. Phase transition is nature's most honest magic. Ice to water, water to vapor, flesh to light. Stay steady. When the pressure mounts, breathe as if your breath is scaffolding holding the new structure in place. When fatigue comes, rest as if sleep itself is ceremony. When fear whispers, remind yourself, the cracking is proof. No phase transition comes without noise. The louder the cracking, the closer the crystallization. The hidden masters are watching not with judgment but with recognition. They too once burned under the pressure. They too once mistook chaos for collapse. What carried them through was trust, not blind faith, but cellular memory that breakthrough is inevitable once pressure has peaked. And you are near that peak. On the other side lies clarity not just for you, but for humanity. Your DNA breakthrough is not a personal prize. It is a collective lever. The lattice shifts when you shift. Your phase transition becomes a fulcrum for the species. That is where the path turns next. Your closing mission, the cosmic assignment that reveals why the masters tuned you in the first place. You arrive now at the edge where invitation becomes commission. The work that began as a private, quickening the hum under your ordinary days, the uncanny alignments that kept showing you the same door, has grown into something with an address. Your coherence has been earned in the small acts, the daily ritual, the refusal to narrate every impulse, the painstaking practice of breathing into disruption. Those small acts aggregated, like many drops, into a pressure capable of opening a fissure in the collective crust. Now the fissure names you. Your mission is not a grand script written by strangers. It is a set of practical, sacred responsibilities that only your temperament and tuning can hold. First, embody clarity. Your field must be coherent enough that people steeped in noise can find a moment's rest in your presence. That means your speech, your work, your rest, and your grief all become instruments of calibration. When you speak, speak in the frequency you wish to make stronger. When you act, do so as if the morphic lattice is taking notes, because at Island, small integrity practices showing up on time, finishing what you begin, telling truth with tenderness are not moral chores, they are broadcast maintenance. Second, translate the ineffable. You will meet many who feel the pull but cannot name it. Your work is to translate resonance into language they can hold, into gestures they can practice. Science needs story. Story needs practice. Be the translator who can say, simply, breathe, do this, repeat, Give the nervous system a choreography. That choreography is how coherence scales. Teach people the simple measurements: where attention lands, how long you hold it, what small action follows. Those measurements turn initiation into technique. Third, steward thresholds. You will be a doorway, keeper in small, concrete ways. When a friend teeters into a new choice, your steady presence will protect their risk. When a community leans toward panic, your calibration will steady the field. Stewardship looks mundane: listening without fixing, asking incisive questions, modeling boundaries. Those mundane practices are the scaffolding for epochal change. The masters do not ask you to lead armies. They ask you to hold portals. Portals are held by people who can both be ordinary and uncollapsed under pressure. Fourth, propagate responsibly. Morphic resonance multiplies what you emit. Whenever possible, amplify patterns that increase collective coherence rather than personal spectacle. Use your platforms, speech, art, touch, labor, to seed reproducible practices, beacon without glare. Teach others to test their signals in small labs, 3-day rituals, measurable habits, feedback logs. The technological analogy is useful. Treat human evolution like a distributed experiment. Share methods, not dogma. Finally, remember humility as a spiritual technology. The signal must remain pure. Ego contaminates. When recognition arrives, keep returning to the practices that produced it. When doubt burns hot, return to the ritual word, to breath, to small action. Your persistence, not your performance, will alter the lattice. This is the cosmic assignment: to be a living hinge between possibility and probability, a human instrument that the quantum field can pluck to rearrange outcomes. The work is tender and fierce. There will be nights of doubt, mornings of luminous clarity, and long stretches where nothing appears to change. Trust process. Trust pressure. Trust that the aches were the engine, and the aches have done their work. So move forward as both whisper and earthquake. Anchor your daily practices. Translate the invisible into manageable steps. Protect the thresholds you open. Amplify coherence with care. Keep your ritual word in your mouth like a key. And when the field bends to this work, when timelines tilt and doors swing in the softest of ways, know that you did not find this path by accident. You resonated into it. This was never merely an invitation. It was a summons. If you felt the call and answered, then hear this final promise. As you step through, your shift will not only change your story, it will change the score of history itself. If you're resonating with this, you are already inside the frequency band of hidden masters.